to the Eagles Pinpool Network Saturday morning spread, November 1st, with your host, Mark Henry Jr. You can follow me on Twitter at Mark Henry Jr. NFL as always. And we've got a very special guest here for the first half of the show. My guy, my old co-host, Sean Bernard. You can go follow him at Sean_Bernard1. Check out everything he's doing over at DK Network, at Fox Sports Gambler, at Pace and Space with Sam Ostry. Sean, how we doing?
Yeah, doing well, Mark Henry Jr. Feels good to be back on the sticks with you right here and in some better spirits. So a little bit of life in the Sixers team that I know you want to talk about, get into there. So excited. And yeah, fired up this Saturday morning.
Yeah, I think everyone in Sixers Nation's fired up after this start to the year. And I texted Sean, as always, I'm always planning my show on Friday and not on Monday or Tuesday like I should be. But I'm like, we got to, before the game, I was like, we got to hop on to talk Sixers. But then I was like, if it ends up being like a 20-point loss, I don't want to have to be negative about the Sixers. I want to come on here raving because this start to this year has been fantastic. I know they lost last night. They lost by a point. They lose in the cup. But I think you'd be crazy to not love the fight that you saw from that Sixers team last night. And I think the stat was they were 0-46, trailing by, I don't know what the exact number was.
Double digits.
Yeah. Trailing by double digits in the fourth. They were 0-46 last year, started out 3-0 this year, and then brought it all the way back last night. Didn't get the job done. But Sean Bernard, thoughts on last night's game? That I get it's a loss, but I couldn't feel better about it.
Yeah, I think you're right that the bigger theme, it is the scrap, the will to win, the competition level that this team is showing, that they did fight from 24 down yesterday to make it a game, to give themselves a chance to have the win, not once but twice in that game and fighting to the end. They've won every single fourth quarter that they've played in this season to this point. They've had 3 fourth quarter comebacks of double-digit leads already this year, coming back from 16 in the Wizards game to force overtime in that one. So there is this like nature and identity of this Sixers team that they will not wave the white flag. They're going to compete till the very end, and that's a really refreshing change from what we've seen from past years. This youthful energy, all the young legs, the guys that just want to run around, the VJ Edgecombs of the world, the Tyrese Maxey, who's absolutely taken another step, Quentin Grimes buying in. So it's been great to see that there is just this resiliency to this squad in a way that I don't think we've had for a few years on the Sixers team.
Yeah, and we're going to get to VJ, get to Joel, but let's start with Maxey. And what Maxey's done so far this year is like you said, he really has taken that step. And last night, he had 26 and 14. I know he had a bunch of turnovers as well. Actually, he didn't have as many as I thought, only 5.
Felt like a lot.
Yeah, it felt like it did feel like a lot. I guess Embiid had 4, Ray had 3, Grimes had 3. Maybe I'm assigning some of them to Maxey since he's the point guard. But 50% from the field, 4 for 9 from 3. I mean, the guy is now averaging 35.2 a game and 9.4 assists per game on really efficient numbers, 46% from the field and 46% from 3 as well. Obviously, it's early in the year, but I mean, what else could you want from what Tyrese Maxey is bringing you? He's also giving you a lot more on the defensive side of the ball, I feel like, in terms of he's really just bulked up over the last couple of years. And I know there were a lot of people talking, and I'm sure you can attest since you have a Purple Heart sitting through last year's Sixers season. But people said that he improved last year defensively. I was not as locked in last year as I've been every other year of his career. And I do feel like you can sense it now a bit more, even if the defense overall is struggling. But Maxey overall, just how real is this?
Yeah, I think it is. And I definitely saw the strides last year. And he kind of said he took a page out of the Joel Embiid playbook of just reading the comments of people saying he can't defend and figuring out. And I am a big believer in general. Defense, a lot of it is just going to be effort based. If you're willing to fight at a level to get in the right spots, to not allow opponents to get position, you're going to give yourself a chance. And Tyrese is obviously a guy who has a high effort level of play on the floor. And I think beyond anything, he's really progressed as far as like being willing to be a leader of the Sixers team. That's something that has really spoke volumes about this season so far to me. Is Tyrese Maxey stood up there at media day saying, I want to set a standard for this Sixers team that regardless of who is here on a night-to-night basis, this is the team that you're going to expect. I think you're off to a very strong start with that, and he's the guy leading the charge in it. So beyond just the development of like the on-court product, which there absolutely is, and him continuing to progress in just about every single category you look at, I think as a leader, he's grown a ton this year and is willing to be like the forward-facing, just face of the Sixers franchise in a way where the keys feel like they're kind of transitioning.
Yeah, it does feel like it is transitioning, and I guess the era that it's transitioning from would be the Joel era, and obviously Joel's still around. I think Joel looked better last night, just in
Yeah.
terms of more fluid, and moving around more like himself. He finished with still finished with 20 and 25 minutes, only the 6 rebounds. That seems to be kind of the key problem right now, is not being able to get up for rebounds, which he hasn't been. He's declined as a rebounder every year pretty much of his career since the beginning, and even maybe more concerning is the defensive side of things. Now, I don't even want to get too far into expectations, or what can what do we expect in the East? Can we compete? All this stuff, because I think the fun of what's happening is the fact that we don't have all that. It's not
Yeah.
life or death to compete for a title. We are watching these young guys develop and all of that. But if this team does want to do anything, it does feel like Joel is still going to, at least in the short term, it feels like Joel is going to have to be a really key part in that. I
Yeah.
guess, where are you at going forward with Joel? Less about him scoring the basketball. I think we all know when he's out there, he's going to put the ball in the net. But rebounding and on the defensive side of the ball, where are you at in terms of going forward with Joel?
Yeah, I guess I started to panic at the start of the season. That first game was pretty discouraging to me. And what was most discouraging about it is I was impressed by what he looked in that preseason game that he played in, that I thought
Yeah.
I saw some encouraging signs. And for it to be sort of a step back for when he actually stepped on the floor for game one was a concern for me. I will say what I'm looking at as encouraging is you look at how he looked last night compared to how he looked in game one. It is already night and day improvements there. And you're right about the scoring. I mean, Joel Embiid's going to be able to roll out of bed and give you 20 in an NBA game probably for the next 20 years. Like, that jump shot is not going anywhere, but it is the other areas. I think like what we're figuring out, and I think what Nick Nurse like picked up on pretty quickly, is you're going to have to pair him with a guy like a Dominic Barlow, who is just all energy, all athleticism, is capable of making up for some of those rebounding deficiencies there. But I think we're already seeing progress as far as Joel adapting to what his body's going to allow him to do. There's still ways that this guy can impact winning, and I think last night was an example of that. We saw him close out a game for the first time all season last night, and does feel like they're being pretty non-committal on what the timeline is, but I'm almost comforted by the fact that there is this clear game plan in place for preserving his body, for scaling him up in the proper way. I think all too often in Joel's career, it's basically been throw him out there and hope for the best. There does seem to be a plan for bringing him along this year. So we'll see if that ultimately works out. But I'm encouraged that there has been progress in that direction. And we're only 5 games into the year.
And then the main event, and the guy who none of this would matter without, is VJ Edgecombe. He's averaging over 40 minutes a game so far this year, which, we watched Doc, and obviously the third pick's different than, I forget what pick we got, Maxey.
21.
21, yeah. So it's obviously different. But I mean, I'm old enough to remember Doc benching Maxey for most of the year and randomly deciding when to play him 30 minutes as a rookie, and then
Furkan Korkmaz played more playoff minutes than Tyrese Maxey's rookie year.
He didn't play like basically any of game 1 through 5 of the Atlanta series. Then he saves us in game 6, and then I think in game 7 he played, but it was like, if I remember correctly, he like didn't check in until like midway through the second quarter, and it was like, what are we doing? Like,
right.
So I'm old enough to remember coaches installing rookies on the bench for no other reason than the fact that they're rookies, and that happens all throughout the NBA. And I mean, we watched Reed Shepherd not be able to get out of the G League last year as the third pick, so it is relevant to bring it up. And VJ from day one, I think I want to talk about Nick Nurse as well, but I think you could tell from the moment they drafted VJ that Nick Nurse was heavily involved in that decision, or at least was. I don't know if that might be unfair, because I don't know if Nick Nurse has enough sway at this point to be heavily involved in the decision. He was supportive of the decision.
His kind of player.
You can tell that VJ is a Nick Nurse guy, and from day one, he has put him to the test here and played him a ton. And I think that that's a better sign than anything, that after training camp and practices and all that stuff, that the head coach has more faith in him than just about anybody on the team, besides maybe even Maxey. And in some ways, the way he talks about VJ, I don't know if he's ever glowed about Maxey that way. Like, he glows about VJ when he talks about him in the media. And how could you not? He's not just scoring. He's obviously 21 a game, but he's rebounding pretty well for a guard. He's really passing the ball well for a guard at 5.5
Defending.
assists per game, defending his butt off out there. And he's been super efficient, 43.8%. And part of the reason I was so bullish when we talked about this all summer on the Tough Cover Radio show is because I loved the jump shot, the mechanics, everything about the jumper I buy. And I still feel the exact same way. Where are you at with VJ? And I guess let me frame the question this way. At this point, with what I've seen, I think I would be stunned if he doesn't turn into a top 30, 40 guy in the NBA with the way he's played this early in his career as a guy we thought might be a little raw as a freak athlete and, obviously a freshman. We thought it might take a little bit more for VJ, and boom, right away, what he's doing. I don't, the sky's the limit for VJ. Am I overreacting?
It's hard not to. You pretty much can't ask for a better start than what we've gotten. I don't think I've ever been more impressed with a player through 5 games of his NBA career for what we've seen from VJ. He's just fearless, man. No moment is too big for him. Even last night, like hitting a big time 3. There were a couple of stretches during that first half where the team was just starved for offense, and VJ's the guy going out and getting them a bucket in the mid range. All stuff that I don't think we were all prepared for right out of the gates here. And I have not looked at the numbers this morning, but as of yesterday, VJ was 3rd in the NBA in minutes per game in the level that he's playing. For a dude that is a rookie, that we're just seeing him thrown to the fire like that, and Tyrese Maxey number 1 on that list. And I understand that there was a extra overtime game there, so the numbers are a little bit pumped up because of that. But the fact still remains that he's been given every sort of opportunity. I think VJ Edgecombe is just aligned with the Nick Nurse vision in a way that he has not been graced with that type of roster across his tenure in Philadelphia. When you think of the top success that he had in Toronto, winning a championship, sure, Kawhi Leonard going on an insane heater was the driving force of that. But the Pascal Siakams, the OG Anunobis, the guys that are these switchable athletic defenders, those are the boxes that VJ Edgecombe checks, and we're beginning to see the entire team run with that identity a little bit more. So it does feel like they're playing Nick Nurse basketball. I think VJ Edgecombe is like the spark point of all of that.
I agree. And you mentioned that Raptors team, and everybody always talks about that Raptors team and the team that won the title. When I became such a big fan of Nurse as a coach and wanted him so badly for the Sixers, and then when we hired him, it was part of why I was like just about out when that happened, when we lost to the Celtics, and then you hire Nurse and I was back in, was because of the 2019-2020 season following the title,
right
after Kawhi left, where they go 53-19 that year with Lowry and Pascal and
Van Fleet.
Van Vliet. OG would have been really young at that point. Like Ibaka was still around. Like I'm looking here, Boucher is playing minutes. Like it was not a great roster, and Kawhi wasn't there anymore. And Nick Nurse, I think, had a better record that year than he had with Kawhi the previous year. Obviously didn't win the title, but and I'll be honest, I've been pretty critical of Nurse through 2 years in Philly, and I've been pretty disappointed, especially in the non-Joel games, especially in that Knicks series. I felt like that Knicks series, Thibodeau really outcoached him. And I felt like in these non-Joel games in the regular season, we were so uncompetitive in a way that I thought maybe would be different with Nick as opposed to Doc and Brett in the past, but really more Doc. I've been in love with what Nick's done so far this year. I think he's pushed all the right buttons from a rotation standpoint, kind of filtering in the Walkers and Barlows, and when we had him, and now kind of filtering in the Walker and Watford combo, and not giving too much Boner or too much Drummond, kind of mixing that up in terms of a look perspective for the other team. And I've been really excited that even without McCain, we haven't really seen it. They've just decided, let's split these guard minutes between Maxey, VJ, and Grimes and give them all a ton of minutes, like what I would do in 2K if I'm putting together a rotation. Like I've loved everything Nick Nurse has done. Obviously 5 games in, I even kind of liked the late game stuff that they tried, like last night in the 2 possessions that didn't go right. I love the pick and roll look that they got with Maxey. I wish Maxey wouldn't have faded away. I wish he kind of would have kept driving and kept going to the rim there. I think what's his name played great defense on that play. He looks like he's 50. Xavier Tillman.
Yes.
He stuck with Maxey really well on that play. And then the last play, I think that's on the inbounder, if anything. But I've loved what I've seen from Nick. I've loved what I've heard from him in the press conferences. Am I overreacting to these 5 games?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you that I've been a little bit more critical of Nick Nurse than the consensus here. I liked it in his first season here, some of the growth of Joel as a playmaker, and I thought that was a really important stride and step that they were taking collectively and with Joel individually. And then last year, like I understand it's not his fault for why things
Yeah,
went wrong, but what I was frustrated with is it felt like he was willing to just throw his hands up and be like, "Well, what do you want me to
yeah.
do?" at a way too easy rate here. That this is a guy who's branded as a basketball mad scientist, an X's and O's specialist, who's so creative, and I didn't see a lot of that last year. So I was pretty underwhelmed by that. I've loved how he's approached this season thus far. And even decisions like starting Dominic Barlow for the first 2 games before the injury popped up. That's a dude on a 2-way contract that Nick Nurse is saying, like, I don't care. That's who gives us the best chance to win right now. That's like kind of decisions that I want to see from a head coach. And I'm in agreement with you. I love the way that he spaced out all this guard play. Quentin Grimes, I think, deserves some credit for buying right back in to where he left off. That there has not been some weirdness that have stemmed into the season for all the contract stuff that dragged out, that he's bought in, and all these guys. I would like a little bit more of Dembona over Andre Drummond. And boy, Andre Drummond, man, so committed to being a 3-point shooter. It is going to be a journey with that this season. So maybe a little bit more Bona, but yeah, I'm with you. I think it has been a pretty clean slate from what we've seen from Nick Nurse this year. Thrilled for what's still to come, and I think that there's a lot like building. Like you said, with McCain coming back, Paul George is going to be more impactful than people realize. Like that's a guy that I think is almost necessary to this team. And I get it. Paul George, a disaster year last year. There's no doubt he did not live up to expectations, but I'm still going to feel a whole lot better when it's Paul George, a corner 3 kicked out to him, then Dominic Barlow or Trendon Watford or even Kelly Oubre or guys like that. So this roster is still adding pieces. Nick Nurse kind of has a chance to add things one by one, and I love the foundation that's already been laid. So a stellar start to the year, no doubt about it.
And then just broadening it out to the rest of the NBA, I've been so invested in the early part of this season. It's been so fun to watch. Giannis is going nuts.
Yeah.
There's so many storylines to pick from. You have Giannis going nuts. You have the Thunder trying to repeat. Wemby and the Spurs. Wemby might just be the best player on the planet now. He's 5-0. Obviously, Jimmy and Steph. We didn't get that many games watching them together last year. I'm going to save the last one for my question. You have the Clippers. Is Kawhi Leonard's contract going to be voided? You have just so many. Dallas, obviously, the Cooper Flag stuff is all brand new. I know he had a rough game the other day, but the one I want to talk about is the game I was watching last night after the Sixers on Prime Video, and it's the Los Angeles Lakers. He's only played 3 games. But Luka Doncic is averaging 45.3, 11.7, and 7.7 in his 3 games. And LeBron's out with sciatica in his back. Austin Reeves averaging 32 a game. I know he had what did he have?
51
and 51 in back-to-back games. Yeah. He's been unbelievable. And you don't even have LeBron out there yet. And some of the other guys are stepping up. Laravia has been pretty solid. I know Rui's been really good. Ayton has been fine. I've never really been an Ayton guy, but I think he's probably a step up for whatever they had at big there. And the Lakers are sitting here at 4-2, and they've won a couple of the wins have been impressive. I thought last night they looked really good against Memphis. I thought they looked pretty good against Minnesota without Luka. One of their 2 losses is without Luka. Before the year I said, what if Luka is just MVP Luka? And we got to a point there with him where he was like automatically 50 wins in Dallas, kind of regardless of what they did, whether it was Kristaps or the Jalen Brunson team or whatever they had around him. They were kind of winning 50 games a year. What if we're just right back to that, where Luka's one of the 2 or 3 best players on the planet? He's healthy, he's not fat, and he's playing 60, 70 games. That's a 50-win team. And then you add, if we ever do see LeBron looking like LeBron this year into that, are the Lakers going to be like one of the stories of the NBA this year?
Yeah, I'm not where you are with the Lakers yet. I'm with you on the Luka side of things. That he looks very impressive to me. I think he's like moving a bit quicker. He looks slimmer by my eyes there. I think like the stop-start stuff looks like at a higher level than has been the case in the past few seasons here. I also think if you're to give Luka Doncic a little truth serum right now and ask him, like, look around at this roster compared to the rosters that he's played with in Dallas, he probably would prefer those rosters that he's played with in Dallas from stylistically and like. Mm-hmm.
That'd probably be a little different with LeBron, though, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That does change things. I also think it's crazy lame, the LeBron stuff, and I understand, who knows, maybe the sciatica stuff is that significant that he can't hear. Like, the whole wait around and let me see what this team looks like. Like, you think Jackson Hayes is gonna magically develop a jumper, man? You think, like,
I
you
don't
know
think
what this
that's what
team is.
he's gonna play. I don't think he's waiting around. Like, what do you think the alternative? What like if the team was bad, what do you think he'd do?
He's just gonna kick dirt and, be angry in the sandbox is what he's gonna do. Like,
Ah,
he's
he's
that's what
old,
I think we're
Sean. I think he's
I
probably. I think his back is probably hurt. I think he's old.
I think he's trying to, use whatever leverage he has right here. I think this is LeBron James move. And I think there's like the old conversation, I think there's more truth to let me not rush into playing as many games as I can this year and preserving myself for the
Yes,
late season surge. Like I think there's some truth to that angle of
I think
things.
it's probably smart.
Yeah, and it could pay off for him. I just like the whole like verbiage of like let me wait and see what this team looks like. It's like I can tell you what they're gonna look like, man. Like none of this is
Yeah,
is new. Like these are the guys you've played with for the most part. So I'm if the West was wide open for the taking, I could kind of walk there and get there with the Lakers. But when you look
yeah,
around at like the Spurs, the Thunder, the Rockets, the Nuggets, you can go down the list of these teams that I think you have equal cases or maybe even more convincing with how everything will break right. So we'll see, to be determined on it, but I'm not all the way there with the Lakers in the same way you are, I think.
with the way Reeves has stepped up,
He's great.
and then when LeBron gets back, I'm not negative on the. I mean, I know I'm a LeBron guy, and you and Sam are. If you go listen to Pace and Space, I'm sure that there's a lot of LeBron hate over there. But I don't think it's at all him like waiting around and seeing the roster. I think he's either hurt or, like you mentioned, maybe he's got a slight twinge, and he's like, you know what? Like if I play through this, I know what's going to happen. I've done this the last couple of years. I think he's played too much over the last couple years, to be honest, and pushed too hard for 50 wins a season in some of these seasons to get the 4 seed, it feels like, for the Lakers, or to get the 6 or 7 seed. But yeah, I'm not saying they can win the West. I don't know if anybody can with the way OKC is playing.
Right.
But I'll open it up to you. One last thing before I get you out of here. What's kind of caught your eye around the league, positively or negatively? I'll throw one out after you.
I mean, the Wemby stuff is for
Yeah.
sure what steals the headline to me. It's every single night. I feel like he does stuff that I've never seen before on a basketball court. And like, I think this is going to be one of those guys that for the entirety of my lifetime, I'm going to be like, you should have seen this Victor Wembanyama, dude. Like, it's unbelievable. The taking guys off the dribble, just like he's a cheat code in a way that it should not be possible. You pretty much can't score at the rim in the half court if he's on the floor there. It's nuts. So, and I think the Spurs are ready. Like, Dylan Harper, the poise that he's shown is ridiculously impressive. Stephon Castle, a guy that I think is just very clearly a winning player here. De'Aaron Fox haven't even stepped on the floor yet. And Devin Vassell, I think, showed some progress. So the Spurs are cooking
I love
something.
I love Vassell. I think
Yeah.
he's awesome.
And he's a great fit for what they need him to do, man.
Yep.
Just a guy that's going to knock down shots, like the 3-and-D archetype of player. And I think there's a little bit more to him than just that there. So
Mhm.
I really love the way the Spurs are building there. That's certainly my headline. Also throw a little love. The Chicago Bulls, man, Modest Buzelis. It's a blast to watch. It's nice to see them like playing fun basketball as well. So those are probably going to be the two top takeaways I'll throw out. But a lot of good storylines in the NBA already.
I don't think they're fun to watch.
The Bulls?
The Giddy Vucevic of it all is like too much for me to handle. But I like Matas. I like I'm happy Aya
Yeah.
has had a really nice start. I really do think he's like a solid
Oh, yeah.
NBA player. I know Kevin Herter's been solid too. I'm gonna go negative then. I'll throw it out
Okay.
here just to let you react on your way out. I picked this team to win the East. I got tricked. I can't believe I was bamboozled. The Magic are not serious people. The Orlando Magic don't have a 1-1 guy, and I'm sorry to say that to Paolo, but he's got to step up and be the guy if he wants to be the guy. Him and Franz are averaging the same amount of points right now. Paolo's averaging 9 rebounds, 4 assists. He's not doing bad, but he needs to take that step at some point. It feels like he's kind of been the same guy since he's come into the league, and I don't know how much improvement there's been. Franz, year to year, he shoots. It just depends what he's shooting from 3, and then Bane has been so disappointing, going from a Memphis situation where you were counted on less and you averaged 18, 21, 24, 19. He's down to 16 points per game here in Orlando, and it's early, obviously. He's not the guy in the way that they need him to be the guy in terms of their lead guard.
Yeah, I'll start with saying Paolo Banchero very clearly the best player on this team. I'm not buying the Franz Wagner propaganda that floats out there often the
I
timelines.
wish there was a bigger gap, is where
Yes,
I'm at.
I agree with that. Like, it is more of an indictment on Paolo that he has not taken those strides, but Franz Wagner is never going to be that guy. He's
I
German
agree.
Ben Simmons, if anything, the good version of Ben Simmons there. With the Bane stuff, I thought it would click way quicker than it has because it makes a lot of basketball sense to me. I think there is a lot of shot selection stuff that they got to kind of really rip through, and that offense as a whole, Paolo especially, really mid-range dependent, and Wagner's not a
Mhm.
guy that's not a floor spacer either. I still think that they'll find some semblance of a stride this year and look like a legitimate basketball team that can win some games. But I thought it would look way cleaner than it was going to out of the gates this year. And like, that was a team that was a historically bad shooting team last year, the worst 3-point shooting team of any in the NBA over the past 10 years that we saw. And Bane's not the cure all for that, but he is a guy that's an incredibly high volume and high efficiency 3-point shooter and has been throughout his career. I'm not sure why it's sort of taken these lanes. I think they got to get a true point guard there. That's like something that I would really attack if I was in them. And they've got some intriguing names like the Anthony Blacks of the world, like guys like that that can run an offense to an extent, but it does feel like a bunch of mismatched pieces in a way that I didn't expect. So I'm selling as much Magic stock as I can. I think it'll look cleaner than it does right now, but they may not be shaping up to the real deal contender that they really should be.
Yeah, I took Bane with a high pick in fantasy, so I've been feeling it early this year. But and I don't know if a lot of people have hot takes on Jamal Mosley out there, but I think it's time to go. Like if he doesn't turn this around, he had the big 47 wins 2 years ago, and then last year 500. This year not a good start. I'm done with it. Anyway, let's get you out of here, Sean Bernard. Sean Bernard's going to go do the Sean Bernard show over on Fox Sports The Gambler at 11 a.m. Any guests on today, Sean?
Probably not. Probably me running solo, trying to figure it out a little bit right now. So, yeah, we're sorting through. I'm probably just gonna talk Sixers pretty much the whole time.
Heck yeah. Point guard Bernard over on the Sean Bernard show. Check him out and go check out everything he's doing over on Sean_Bernard1 over on Twitter and over on DK Network. Sean, always a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you having me, Mark Henry Jr., and definitely always good to get back on the sticks with you. So, enjoy the rest of your show, and we'll have to do this again, no doubt about it.
Yeah, especially now that we're going to be switching over to, pretty soon, no college football on Saturdays. And
Yeah,
we've got my boy Yaxel Lenborg
that's
dropping
right.
25 and 20 in college. We got the college hardwood starting up soon. Can't wait. We'll definitely be discussing all things basketball. We got 7 more months of this year in the NBA. So get ready, Sean Bernard. We got a lot to go.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So appreciate it, Mark. We'll talk to you soon.
Of course. Love having Sean on. My old Tough Cover Radio show co-host there. He's the absolute man. Dude is, I love having all my frequent guests on, but when you do a show with someone for 2 years, it's so easy when Sean is on the show with me, just going back and forth, bouncing around all the sports. Wish we could have got to football and all that stuff, but so much to hit on in the NBA. I mean, I didn't even get to everything that I would have loved to hit on with him in the NBA. So we're going to have Sean on plenty of times throughout the year to talk football, talk basketball, all things sports. But let's talk football. It's football time. Let's talk some ball, and let's start it off on the college football slate at 12 o'clock. My picks here for the day. I believe it's an 8-pick card. Let me verify that for the people. Yes, an 8-pick card here. We're going Vanderbilt plus 3.5 at Texas for 3 units. I understand it's a trap. I do not care. Vandy's legit. Texas is not. I don't care who's playing quarterback in terms of Archer, the backup, because the Texas offensive line has given up 18 sacks and 53 tackles for loss this year for an offense that ranks just 118th nationally in offensive explosiveness, 120th in EPA per play. This is not just an Arch Manning problem with the Texas Longhorns. They're also not excellent at running the football, which you would think a Texas team should always be good at running the football. Their top 2 runners, Wisner averaging 3.8 yards per carry. Their second, Arch Manning, averaging 2.9 yards per carry, factoring in his sacks. They don't have a runner in their top 7 yards earners in terms of rushing the ball, averaging more than 4.2 yards per carry. Even if Arch isn't in this game, I'm not confident at all that they'll be able to run the football whatsoever. And then you look at Vanderbilt, they've stepped up. They're really good against the pass. They've ranked 13th nationally in havoc allowed, 34th in explosiveness allowed. And those are 2 areas that Texas has really struggled on offense. So give me Vandy plus 3.5. V's up. Diego Pavia. We're riding with Diego. He hasn't been as good statistically lately, but the guy's just such a dog. Like I believe he's going to go out there and fight for every possible yard. And at the very worst, I think this is a close game in a similar way Texas had close games with Kentucky and Mississippi State, who are not close to the team that Vanderbilt is. At 3:30, give me over 44.5, Michigan State, Minnesota. Ugh. I know it sounds gross, but I got to tell you, folks, there's always money in the banana stand, and there's always money in the dumpster. And if you want to go dumpster diving in an ugly Big Ten matchup here, the over's the play. Michigan State has been my adopted over team this year. I've watched more Michigan State than maybe any team in the country besides Notre Dame. And I feel like I've watched a lot of Georgia. I would say Notre Dame, Georgia, and Michigan State have really been the three teams I've watched the most. And it's because I've bet so many Michigan State overs. USC is probably in that mix as well. But Michigan State's 7-1 to the over. Minnesota, not as much of an over fiend, but they have hit 3 of their last 5 and 4 of their last 7. Michigan State's allowed 31 points or more in all 6 games against power conferences opponents, averaging 38 points per game allowed to Boston College, USC, Nebraska, UCLA, Indiana, and Michigan. And Aiden Childs has honestly helped the overs with some of the picks and fumbles that he has on offense. And then when he does get things going, he runs around a little bit and it gets a lot of garbage time work in. But it wouldn't be a surprise to see backup Alessio Milivojevic. Say that name 3 times fast and see if you get it right. But if this game gets out of hand, I don't mind the fact that Michigan State might bring in a backup to try to save the coach's job, because the coach will still be trying to not be conservative at the end of the game. So I understand it's at home, but this is a Minnesota defense giving up 40 points per game on the road. They've been better at home. But the fact that they're 4 games on the road and they've given up 40 points per game in there, I think it says a lot about the defense. They just gave up 41 to Iowa. They already gave up 31 to the Woebegone Rutgers offense. I think Michigan State's going to put up points. But what I will say is this line's very strange. Minnesota only a 3-point favorite here. I lean Minnesota. And if I didn't love the over so much, I probably would be betting Minnesota. I kind of want to be singularly focused on games. I kind of hate these days having a spread and a total. It feels like sometimes I'm I don't have the right word from the dictionary, but I'm in opposition with myself sometimes. It feels like when I do those bets. So, for instance, I like USC in the over tonight. I'm only betting one of those. We'll get to that when we get to my later on plays. But Michigan State, Minnesota over 44.5. It's one of my favorite plays of the day today. 345. Give me Cal plus 6.5 against the Virginia Cavaliers. Justin Wilcox 24-12 against spread as a dog of 6 or more. 13-6-1 against spread as a home dog. Virginia's won 3 of their last 4 games in overtime. The other one was a field goal at the buzzer of regulation to win by 2 against Washington State. True freshman JKS has thrown for he threw for a career high 286 last week, even though they lost the game. He's thrown for 200 yards at least in every game this season, becoming the second true freshman in FBS history to do so in their first 8 games. Then you look at the defensive side of the ball. Cal is surrendering just 191 passing yards per game and ranks second in passing success rate allowed. I think Cal keeps this low scoring, which makes the 6.5 points pretty enticing as a dog. Virginia's destined to play only close games. Like I said, 3 of the last 4 decided by overtime. The other one decided by 2 points. It's 4 straight games decided by a field goal or less. I think it says everything you need to say about Virginia as like a team that could make a run, which I don't believe in at all, and whether or not they're legit whatsoever. At 7 o'clock, give me the Arizona Wildcats minus 3.5 at Colorado for 2 units. Fafita is spreading it around really well. Have 5 separate Arizona wide receivers have recorded over 200 yards, with Trey Spivey leading the charge with 5 touchdowns. Colorado has a constant quarterback controversy with Caden Salter and Ryan Staub. And then you look at running the ball, hasn't been very good either for Colorado. They rank 104th in rush success rate. And you look at Arizona 3-1 straight up and against spread as a favorite. Colorado 2-4 against spread as a dog, 1-5 outright this year. I might be biased into Arizona here because I was at a wedding last week. We were at a bar beforehand. I watched Colorado play Utah last week. It was on one of the main TVs. They were down 43-0 at halftime. It felt like it could have been worse. They were up 26-0, or they were down 26-0 after 17 minutes of game time, 2 minutes into the second quarter. Arizona's not Utah, but they had a bye last week while Colorado was getting their butts kicked all the way up and down the field. Give me Arizona minus 3.5. At 7:30, my best bet of the day. It's right here. The Tennessee Volunteers. Give me Tennessee minus 2.5 against Oklahoma. Tennessee hasn't beaten anyone. They're in a little bit of a Notre Dame situation where their losses look about just as good as possible. A loss in overtime to Georgia is still a really good loss. People are down on Georgia. We'll talk about that a little bit, maybe in a future week. I think it's incorrect to be down on Georgia. And then a loss to Bama. They lost by 17, but the score was closer than that indicates. A pick six that they were going in. They're in the red zone to score, and they throw a pick six. That totally turned the tide of the game. Tennessee 5-0 straight up as a favorite this year. I think they're going to handle business. Oklahoma's defense is fake good. They faced bad quarterbacks, and Ole Miss showed that last week when Trinidad Chambliss put up some points on them. Oklahoma's not winning out, in my opinion. Brutal schedule down the stretch. Tennessee still has a chance. I think they come into this game more fired up, and I think that crowd will be singing Rocky Top all night long. I believe in Tennessee to win out and get to 9-2 as a potential playoff game to make the playoffs against Vanderbilt to close the season. Next game up at 7:30, give me Washington State minus 3.5 at Oregon State for 3 units. Wazoo offense has been much better with the backup quarterback, and the defense has really stepped up in this tough stretch of their schedule as well. This is a Wazoo team that only lost to Ole Miss by 3, only lost to Virginia by 2, and then they smashed the Toledo team that was favored against them in the last 3 games. The last time Oregon State played anyone that was half decent, they lost 39-14 to Wake Forest. These teams play again in 3 weeks, and I think Wazoo gets the Pac-2 sweep. So give me Washington State minus 3.5. It's like I'm working a baseball midday game here with the shadows. They creep in as I'm doing the pod. We were doing so well with the shadows. Now I don't even know if you can see me. But let's do the last 2 picks on the college football slate here. USC, FUSC minus 4.5 at Nebraska. I hate to bet on USC, but I think USC is a legit 6-2, while I think Nebraska is a fraudulent and honestly disappointing 6-2. With that schedule, I think you could have hoped for better than that from Nebraska at this point this year. But the main reason I'm on this game is not just because I like USC more than Nebraska. USC's had a bye in 2 of their last 3 weeks. Nebraska hasn't had a bye in 5 weeks. You've been dealing with all the Matt Rule stuff. I know he just got the extension. Maybe they come out fired up about the extension. I think if I had to guess anything, we're coming out after that game and saying, wow, why did Nebraska extend Matt Rule? That's kind of my thought on it. So give me USC minus 4.5. I also like the over there. I liked it at 56.5. I think it's up to like 59.5, 58.5. I think it should be in the 60s. So I do like it as the higher number. But like I said, I don't like doubling up on games anymore. So with the number going way up and the USC number actually going down, I liked USC at minus 6. Numbers at 4.5 now. I'm just going to take the spread and cheer on the Trojans, which makes me sick. And then my last play of the day, Wake Forest plus 10.5 at Florida State. I don't have fancy research or numbers for you here. This is a gut play, and it feels like Wake Forest should not be a 10.5-point dog to dead coach walking. Mike Norvell, Wake has covered 4 straight games. Florida State's failed to cover 4 straight games. Jake Dicker is a great coach for the Demon Deacons. Give me Wake Forest plus 10.5. I think they're live in that game. And then one last play on the card is on the hardwood in the NBA. I should have went over it with Sean Bernard, but I'm riding Cooper Flag. Give me Dallas Mavericks plus 8.5 at the Detroit Pistons over on Peacock at 10 o'clock. So let's switch it over. Actually, real quick, I'll go through some of the games that I did not have a play on in the college football slate. Maybe some leans here. At 12 o'clock, Miami at SMU. I bet SMU against Wake Forest was too let down. I would lean SMU at the 12.5 points. Miami hasn't left Florida all year until this game. So I do think maybe a little bit shock to the system. I think SMU's live in that game, but I'm not touching it. Penn State at Ohio State. I would lean Ohio State minus 20.5, but there's part of it that's like, if you look at the Penn State games, they've kind of lost every game close. They haven't really been blown out. So Ohio State's a different animal, though. Duke at Clemson. I would lean with the over here, 54.5, but I'm not touching it. Rutgers at Illinois. Again, I would lean to the over at 62.5, not touching it. West Virginia at Houston. Houston, I like there, minus 13.5, just a little too many points for me. UCF at Baylor, I would lean Baylor with those 3.5. 1 o'clock, Arizona State at Iowa State. Wouldn't touch that game with a 10-foot pole. At 3 o'clock, Virginia Tech. I don't even know what that game is because I wrote Virginia Tech at Virginia Tech. So we're going to delete that and not care about that game because clearly my brain didn't care about it when I typed it. 3:30. This is where we can talk about it. Georgia minus 7.5 at Florida. I think people are being a little ridiculous about Georgia. I think people are punishing a team that's played, I think, inarguably, if you lined up every team in the country's 3 toughest games, I don't think anybody has something close to Georgia, who played at Tennessee when they were 15th in the country, played Alabama at home, and then just beat Ole Miss at home when they were number 5 in the country last week. They've played 3 teams that are in the playoff race already so far this year. I don't know how many teams can say that they've done that. They went 2-1 in those games, losing by a field goal to Alabama. I'm starting to think there's a chance Georgia gets to the playoff and just starts rolling teams and beats everybody up to maybe everybody but Ohio State. So I think there's a chance Georgia being given way too little credit here. But if I was leaning anywhere, I would go Georgia minus 7.5 at Florida. Texas Tech at Kansas State. Kansas State has put it together as of late. I would lean K-State plus 7. Indiana at Maryland. I would lean Indiana minus 22. Siggs loves putting it on teams. Notre Dame at Boston College. I would lean to the over. I'm not confident in Boston College's offense, but Notre Dame's defense leaves a lot to be desired. 4 o'clock. This is one of the ones that almost made my card. Mississippi State at Arkansas. I almost bet Mississippi State plus 4.5. It was just such a kick to the balls last week that happened against Texas. Brandon Walker right in his face. It sucks, my buddy, my Mississippi State friend. It happened right in his face in the end zone where he gives up the game-winning touchdown to Texas. Only a 4.5 point dog here to Arkansas. I think Arkansas is destined to play a close game every single week. But what if the close game's like 27-21 instead of 24-21? So didn't end up going there. South Carolina at Ole Miss at 7 o'clock. I lean Ole Miss minus 12.5. Purdue at Michigan. I would lean the under there at 49.5 because Sharon Moore is a moron. At 7:30, Kentucky plus 10.5 at Auburn. This one almost made the card as well. Auburn shouldn't be a 10.5 point favorite against Air, let alone a Kentucky team that has hung tough in a couple of these games. Georgia Tech at NC State. I would lean towards the over there at 58.5. That wraps up my plays on the college football side of the board. Let's switch it over to the NFL. At 1 o'clock, my best bet of the week for the NFL is the Denver Broncos plus 2.5 at the Houston Texans. I understand it's a trap. I do not care. The Broncos defense has 36 sacks through 8 games this season. The next closest team to Denver in sacks is entering week 9 with 26 sacks instead of 36. The Houston Texans allowing the most sacks in the league as an offensive line, the worst offensive line in football so far this year. So I understand the Sharps love Houston. I'm going with the matchups over imaginary gambling factors. I'm going with a teaser. I did a 6 point, or I believe a 6.5 point minus 120 teaser. Chargers minus 2.5, Lions minus 2. I do not think that the Chargers are going to lose to the Tennessee Titans. I do not think that the Lions are going to lose to the Minnesota Vikings. That's basically the bet. At 4:05. And we're back. Don't know what that was. That was a brief technical difficulty, but
We're back. We're fighting through it. The Jags -2.5 at the Raiders. Pete Carroll's teams are 0-4 straight up and against the spread, coming off of a full bye since 2020. So give me the Jags -2.5. Chiefs -1.5 at the Bills at 425 for 2 units, and the Bills team total under 25.5. The Chiefs have held teams 20 or less in 6 of their 8 games. Bills have failed to score this amount in 2 of their last 3 games. So I think there's a chance that this is a bit of a lower scoring game than people expect. Maybe some long methodical drives as opposed to these explosive plays that you would normally expect to see from Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen led offenses. But I do like them both to score in this game. Patrick Mahomes is at plus 350 to score a touchdown in this game, and I'm riding with it. I'm going plus 350. He's scored in half of his games so far this year. Josh Allen has scored in 4 of his 7 games. He's at plus 110. I'm taking that. He scored twice in 2 of those games. He scored in 10 of his last 16 games dating back to last season. So I'm all aboard all of the bets in that one. 4 bets. Chiefs -1.5. Bills team total under 25.5. Josh Allen touchdown. Patrick Mahomes touchdown. But the main reason that I like the Chiefs in that game is I feel like the Chiefs have fought through their problems, whereas the Bills are still in the midst. I know that they just blew Carolina out 40-9. To me, that didn't feel like, oh, our problems are behind us. It felt like they're still figuring it out. They ran the ball a lot. Carolina can't stop the run. I don't think that's happening in this game. I think they're going to have to throw it a lot as well. I think the Chiefs have ironed out their problems. They've gotten Worthy back. They've gotten Rashee Rice back. I'm not worried about Pacheco going out at all. Just give me the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs handle business. I know it's usually been Buffalo in the regular season, Kansas City in the postseason. I think this time it's going to be Kansas City in the regular season, and then probably Kansas City again in the postseason. So hopefully I'm wrong for the people out there who hate the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not as much of a hater as some out there, but give me KC. Last play of the week on Monday Night Football, give me the Dallas Cowboys -2.5 against the Arizona Cardinals. Since the start of the 2020 season, Dak and the Cowboys are a perfect 13-0 straight up as a favorite at night, beating their opponents by a ridiculous 18.3 points per game. Kyler started 6 career games off of a full bye week. Arizona just 1-5 straight up and against the spread in those 6 games, failing to cover the spread by 9.4 points per game. That's not going to get it done, folks. So I'm trying to find my DFS. You know what? I'll tweet out my DFS lineup for the people. I don't have it handy right here. That's a bad job by me. But real quick, let's go through the rest of the NFL lines before I get you guys out of here and on to the college football Saturday slate. Chicago at Cincinnati. I would lean Chicago there. Chicago just made me feel and look so stupid last week by betting on them that I can't possibly do it again this week. Atlanta at New England. I would normally bet New England, but I've announced Atlanta and Carolina. I will not be betting their games anymore. I don't care either direction. Done with the Falcons and Panthers. Too random for me to deal with. Too random. Panthers at Carolina. I just said it. Too random. 1 o'clock, a game that I lean on. Colts at Steelers. I kind of lean Colts -3. But the line is telling you something here. This is a Pittsburgh line that they're only a 3-point dog. And it's 2.5 on some sites as well. So I'm going to stay away from that one. San Fran at New York. I want to bet San Fran. Again, similar to Chicago, they made me feel so stupid last week. And New York lost Scatterbo. There's a chance that that's being overrated because they still have Tracy, who I don't love, but he's a solid running back. I'm staying away from that one. Staying away from San Fran, New York. Also, what's happening with Brock Purdy is insane. Kyle Shanahan needs to be investigated. They say he's going to play every week, and then Thursday comes around and Mac Jones is playing. So it makes absolutely no sense. At 4:05, the New Orleans Saints play the LA Rams with my bet on the Jags, as well as the big game of the week in Chiefs Bills. I don't even want to be thinking about this game. Saints Rams, get it out of my sight. And then finally, Sunday Night Football, Seahawks -3 at Washington. Jaden Daniels is surprisingly playing in this one, and that I thought it was -3 with a backup. I thought that was the line. I thought that was the Marcus Mariota line, and I was going to hammer it. I don't think that was the Marcus Mariota line. I think it was the Jaden Daniels line because now Jaden's playing, and yikes. I'm not going to bet Seattle here because I have no idea what to expect from Jaden Daniels as opposed to Marcus Mariota, especially since the line hasn't shifted at all. So I'm staying out of this one, and that's going to do it for Saturday Morning Spread. That's going to do it for our November 1st edition of Saturday Morning Spread, hitting all things NBA, all things college football, all things NFL. You can follow me on Twitter at Mark Henry Jr. NFL. Go follow everything Eagles Pinball Network's doing on YouTube. Subscribe, smash that like button. Go follow it over on Twitter as well. But I don't know. Saturday Morning Spread Country? I guess that's what I'm doing. Saturday Country. Let's ride.